I'm surprised you weren't offered finer clothing sooner. Or a bath." Laurel's tone was devoid of disgust or condemnation, but it made Cora bristle just the same. She glanced down at the plain gray dress she wore, one she'd received upon arriving at the palace, along with a nightgown and undergarments. She'd been given a daily ewer for washing, but her hearth was never lit unless she requested it. Since she was too proud to beg anyone here for help, she'd donned her cloak on cold mornings instead, and today was no exception. It was the same cloak she'd worn during the battle, and the wool was stained with soil and blood. She splayed her hand, noting dirt caked under her nails as well as the loose strands of frizzy hair that floated about her face. Now she understood the emotions she'd sensed from the seamstresses. If they were used to fitting the Princess of Soleil, they had their work cut out for them with Cora. They didn't bother having her undress, and they seemed loath to touch her or her filthy clothes more than necessary. After a few more basic measurements were taken, the women stepped back and began holding bolts of fabric and even some finished dresses next to her, as if testing the colors against her skin tone. "These are Princess Marilot's old dresses, Highness," one of the seamstresses said, addressing Cora for the first time. She held up a gown of gold taffeta and squinted at it before giving the dress a nod and taking it to the bed. "More like rejected designs," the eldest woman muttered, a wry smirk on her face. That earned a titter from the other two. "I can't imagine why Marilot would reject any of these," Laurel said, tone wistful as she watched the women lift dress after dress and hold it next to Cora. The seamstresses were careful not to let any of the gowns come within an inch of her current ensemble. Once they seemed satisfied, they packed all their things back in their boxes. "We'll have these gowns hemmed and adjusted by evening, Highness," one said. "They won't be perfect, but they'll do until you get home to your own dressmaker." There was that word again. Home. She tried to associate it with Radine Castle, but forest trees and archery seemed more suited to it. She shook her head. Maybe someday she could return to just being Cora, forest witch, friend to unicorns, and poisoner of enemies. Not yet. She'd chosen her brother, the safety of Carreau. Until she knew both could flourish without her, she had to stay. Had to be Princess Aveline. "You must be exhausted after everything you've been through," Laurel said, rousing Cora from her thoughts. Only now did she notice that the seamstresses had left and been replaced with servants hauling in a large wash basin and pitchers of steaming water. "Now come, let's get you washed and styled. We'll have you feeling like a princess again in no time."